Hi, welcome back. My name is Cole.
And I'm Andrew.
And this is CTRL-AC.
CTRL-AC is the podcast where we talk about monopolies. Everyone's a monopoly.
Everybody's a monopoly. We've talked extensively about Apple being a monopoly, especially when the Epic lawsuit was going on. But this is kind of a big deal this time.
So Apple is a monopoly, or at least that's what the DOJ, Department of Justice, is trying to prove. So the DOJ issued an 88-page lawsuit. They're suing Apple because they believe that Apple uses their own services, specifically the watch, the iPhone, restriction of web apps, we'll get to all that stuff, to create a giant monopoly that in the end makes all of the products worse for the consumer. That's basically the TLDR overall argument.
Yes.
Apple's a monopoly. As a result, the product is worse. So this is not the first time. We've had the iMessage conversation. Apple's been in hot EU water.
Yeah, especially lately.
They're used to this. They're used to being called
Apple's
a monopoly, but not like to this extent. This is a big deal.
Yeah, because the first time Apple was sued for monopolistic reasons was the Epic lawsuit, right?
That's one of the most prominent ones,
right.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing was they shouldn't charge how much they do for the App Store or whatever. It's non-competitive or whatever, right?
And it was harming developers.
And it was
That's
harming
what they
developers,
said.
right. And that didn't kind of go anywhere. Apple won that lawsuit.
It took like 3 years.
It took forever. I think Google lost to Epic on that one.
Right.
But Apple won on that one with Epic. So that's kind of interesting because the court didn't see both sides, but this is something Apple's never really had to fight before because they've never had to deal with something to this extent.
Yeah, the whole Epic Games lawsuit was just around the App Store being a monopoly.
Yeah.
This is the entire company. Like all of their services, specifically, Wallet and iMessage, we'll get to those. But it's a lot broader than just the specific Epic one. So I have read parts of the 88-page lawsuit. I plan to read the entire thing in the coming week or two. Planning on writing a whole article about this, breaking down what this means. I really think the lawsuit is quite fascinating because it honestly reads... it's not a hard lawsuit to read, and it kind of reads like a story. It's very interesting. And the first 2 pages are very important. So we'll kind of break down the first 2 pages. So the whole lawsuit alleges that Apple uses 5 key points to run their monopoly. So super apps, the watch, the wallet, web apps, and iMessage. We're all familiar with iMessage, that allegation. Let's just break down each one, I guess, and we'll kind of go through what the lawsuit alleges and then what we actually think about it. I think that's the easiest way. So, super apps. Point number 1. A super app is basically an app, think like Facebook or X. So an app that has a bunch of different things in one. So like Facebook, for example, you can buy a car, you can message someone, you can post photos and videos. They have a whole thing. It's like
they have a dating portion
of Facebook.
It's got a lot of different things that you can do on it.
Right.
Like you said, messaging.
That is kind of like a super app.
Kind of.
The most famous example of a super app is WeChat in China.
Which we also talked about when TikTok was taken to court.
WeChat is
it's an app.
It's an app. You can do literally everything on WeChat if you live in China. You can talk to your friends. You can send your friends money. You can book appointments.
At that point, it's just an operating system inside of an operating system.
Exactly. That's what the DOJ's point. Like, so a super app is like this hub for everything all in one app. Apple doesn't love that. And the first paragraph of the lawsuit goes right into that. So I'm going to read like the first part of the lawsuit. In 2010, a top Apple executive emailed Apple's then CEO about an ad for the new Kindle e-reader. The ad began with a woman who was using her iPhone to buy and read books on the Kindle app. She then switches to an Android smartphone and continues to read her books using the same Kindle app. The executive wrote to Jobs, one, quote, message that can't be missed is that it is easy to switch from iPhone to Android, not fun to watch. Jobs was clear in his response. Apple would force developers to use its payment system to lock in both developers and users on its platform. Over many years, Apple has repeatedly responded to competitive threats like this one by making it harder or more expensive for its users and developers to leave than by making it more attractive for them to stay. So the Kindle ad. Lady reading a Kindle on her iPhone, switches to Android phone. Hardware doesn't matter, right? Like it's all software that matters.
Right.
So in China, if you have an app like WeChat, everything you do, from sharing photos to checking your bank account, it's all in one app.
You can't get that on the App Store, can you?
It exists on the App Store in the US. It's just a very different version of it. It gets updated a lot later.
Oh, it's just...
Yeah, it's
just...
watered down version
of WhatsApp.
It. Yeah. So in China, you have an incredibly competitive smartphone market. You and I know this.
Yeah.
There's a new phone in China every 5 minutes.
Right.
And
it's
they're
some
all
big
crazy.
company or it's some dumb company like Xiaomi.
Yeah, but they're insane.
Yeah.
They have like ridiculous specs because no one in China is tied to an ecosystem. Their whole ecosystem is in one app that's available on every phone. So you have a really, really expansive smartphone market and people jump around a lot. DOJ is arguing Apple restricts super apps because they fear that very thing would happen here.
Yeah.
If all of our services in the US were built into one app, hardware wouldn't matter and you could switch phones around a lot. You're not
then
locked
when
in.
Apple reiterates the same phone for 3 generations,
it wouldn't matter.
Right. They just buy a better phone than an iPhone.
Right. Because all your stuff is on it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no difference, except hardware-wise. So that's the first complaint. Apple restricts that to keep a monopoly on the iPhone. To Apple's credit...
let's play devil's advocate for a second. The whole point of the iPhone was to be essentially a super app, if you think about it, because this super app term is just another term for an operating system inside of an operating system.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
It's an OS and an app.
Yeah. And I, as a engineer, whatever, wouldn't want all the effort that I've taken to build an operating system that, in fairness, iOS is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's really polished. I mean, it's got bugs, but everything has bugs. Just to be replaced by one app that's made by China, of all places.
Well, and that's the other thing, too. The U.S. is a different country.
Exactly.
We don't necessarily like as a country, we don't like the idea of one company controlling.
Right. We want the American spyware watching us, not the Chinese spyware.
Right. No TikTok, but Mark Zuckerberg can monitor our marketplace.
The lizard, space lizard, Mars.
Yeah. There isn't really a company in the US that most people are comfortable with managing their bank account and photos and everything they do. Again, it's a different country than China.
Right. And let's keep using WeChat as an example. iOS, messages, calls, photos, payment.
Right.
So
by creating like an open door to super apps, they would essentially lose a lot of iOS lock-ins. And
to be like, it's not even iOS. It's hard to switch from iOS to Android because of the differences that it has. And having a super app like WeChat would make it a lot easier to just switch because you just use the one app.
You literally need one app.
You find the one app that you always go to, swipe up, have a shortcut that automatically opens the app when you unlock your screen.
Yeah, there's no point. Right. So if I was in China, all I would care about is having like the coolest looking hardware.
Right, the fastest performing device.
Well, and a lot of that stuff is web-based too.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter how fast your hardware. It doesn't matter that you have an A17 Pro because there's no ray tracing in WeChat.
Right.
It just doesn't matter. So that's complaint number one, super apps. Is that legit, do we think?
I'm going to say, let's score them out of 10 on like
how strong
how
the
serious
DOJ's point is. Like how strong their case is.
Right, like how serious this problem is. I'm going to say 3.5 out of 10.
On how strong the DOJ's case is against this?
Yeah, like the point of it, like how serious this actually is towards being a monopoly. Maybe 4.5. I'll give it a 4.5. Because
I'd be right around the middle too.
Right, so iMessage is going to be somewhere higher up on there.
Because even if Apple was fine with super apps, the US isn't.
Right, they're going to ban TikTok.
Right, like Elon could not go and buy Facebook.
Right,
like,
I mean, well, he probably could, but he
all,
won't.
all those deals get blocked though. Like acquiring Activision whatever the Activision deal
that was hard for Microsoft to do, but they did it.
The FTC does not like this. They do not like big companies acquiring big companies.
Because you get monopolies.
So even if the door was open for super apps, America would not like that.
Right.
That's still a problem. So that's why I don't think that complaint is super valid.
So final rating, I'm going to go 4.
So next is the watch. So they basically, and I think this one's pretty weak.
Yeah, I read some on the watch portion.
They basically said that the Apple Watch only works with the iPhone. Thus, the Apple Watch assists the monopoly because it can't work with other devices.
This is somewhere, I mean, the Apple Watch is an accessory to your iPhone.
Right.
Very few people use it as a standalone device.
Also, my friend has a Pixel Watch that will not work with my iPhone.
Right. So Google, hello. Okay, that also might be an Apple thing, but
it's just an accessory to the phone.
Right. Like you buy a Google phone, you buy a Pixel Watch.
It's not
you
supposed
buy
to.
A Samsung phone, you buy, what is the Samsung watch called? Galaxy Watch.
Yeah.
You buy an iPhone, you buy an Apple Watch. So it's an accessory to your phone that you buy.
I think this one is the weakest out of them all.
Yeah, I say like 2.5, honestly. It's kind of like the whole AirPods thing, not being able to be controlled on other devices. Like
they're made by the same company. Like
right.
You'd expect it to work best or only, exclusively with that phone. I don't know. This one's kind of weak in my opinion.
Let's try to relate this to something. Like that's why Adidas clothes look better with Adidas clothes.
Yeah, I saw an example on Twitter. It was like Gillette razor blades only work with Gillette.
Right.
Like it's just a proprietary thing made by the same company.
To be fair, the razor blades are way cheaper, so it's a very easy thing to like let go. But even still, we don't get mad at Windows for making proprietary software.
Right. I can't. Yeah.
We don't get mad at PlayStation for making proprietary games.
The Pixel Watch doesn't work on the iPhone.
Right.
Like you have to go sue Google too.
Right. You can't play favorites or least favorites, I guess.
But they are.
Yeah. So 2.5 out of 10 on that one.
Then we get to Wallet. So the DOJ alleges that Apple has a monopoly on the Wallet app because they are really stingy with how other apps use NFC, specifically NFC with payments. So if I downloaded like the Bank of America app, I cannot go in the Bank of America app and use my debit card through that app with Apple Pay. It is just through the Apple Wallet app, and that is it. And they are alleging that that is a monopoly and anti-competitive and all that.
I think that's just because Apple Pay doesn't take a cut when you use your card.
No, I think it's genuinely a security thing.
Yeah, because Apple Pay changes your card number.
Right.
The Wallet app changes your card number so they can't get back-to-back transactions or scammers can't have access to your true. Because let's say you Apple Pay and there's skimmers, card skimmers. Those work with NFC now. You can hold your debit card up to it and it can pull the data from it from a skimmer.
Yeah.
This is Apple protecting it because Bank of America is not going to go through the process of changing your card. That's too much money on R&D and everything to get that to work.
They say in the lawsuit, Apple Wallet is the only app on the iPhone that can use NFC to facilitate tap to pay. While Apple actively encourages banks, merchants, and other parties to participate in Apple Wallet, Apple simultaneously exerts its smartphone monopoly to block these same partners from developing better payment products and services for iPhone users. I really feel like Apple has a strong security case here.
Yeah, and
Just
Google
saying,
doesn't have a Google Pay is the same thing.
yeah. I don't know what the situation is on Android. I don't think you can just tap to pay from a random app.
You can't.
I don't think you can.
It's a security risk on every part.
Right, that's Apple's case.
Right.
And it's, I think that's a strong one.
That's a very strong one. I
Because
say
as Apple, you do not want a bunch of people randomly using apps that are not Apple approved to spend money with Apple Pay.
right.
That's like a liability that they would then have.
Yeah, and then their privacy policy would become even more convoluted.
Right. And Apple's kind of a different company too, because they have a reputation that they really try and uphold.
Yeah.
In this case, it's a privacy one.
Mm-hmm.
But they restrict that so that if anything bad happens with Apple Pay, it is all internal and they can fix it.
Right.
They're not outsourcing all this stuff.
Exactly.
I feel like they have a genuine case there.
I feel like that's a 1.5 out of 10 on that on the DOJ's part.
I don't think that's super strong.
I don't think it's strong at all, honestly. Okay, web apps. Me and Andrew have talked about the web apps on the Mac OS 17, right? Sonoma?
What was it? Wasn't it Big Sur? It was like an older one that got...
Yeah, but like they just made it better.
Oh, yeah, it was Sonoma. You're right.
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure. I haven't heard anything. I haven't read anything on the web apps part of the lawsuit.
So a web app is an app on your phone or a shortcut on your phone that opens up an application that is not locally run.
Right. So like I can go right now. Let's say I go to Safari, go to Spotify.com. Let's just say, yeah.
Or like theverge.com, and then
Yeah.
you pin that to your home screen.
And then add to home screen. You
Right.
can change. It shows an icon. You can change the name.
So it's now an app on your home screen, but it is run through a browser, not on device.
Right.
There you go. So pretty straightforward. The whole DOJ part about web apps all has to do with game streaming.
What?
So the most popular example, I guess, is Xbox cloud streaming, which was not allowed on the iPhone at first. They eventually caved with this really weird workaround where Xbox would have to submit every single game on Xbox cloud streaming to Apple and every update to Apple and get each game individually approved. All of that was a whole thing.
Yeah. Same with GeForce Now. GeForce Now they banned on the App Store.
Right.
And you had to run it through the website.
So on the second page of the lawsuit, back to the very beginning, it says, as one Apple manager recently observed, quote, imagine buying a expletive Android for $25 at a garage sale and it works fine and you have a solid cloud computing device. Imagine how many cases like that there are.
So I see where they're coming from here. Apple doesn't want cloud streaming because basically all it is playing a video. It's just video playback from another device.
Right. And they said these are all emails. So once again, if you're an executive, if you're any sort of employee, any company really, do not put controversial things in emails because it will get out and you will end up in a DOJ lawsuit.
Somebody will hack your email.
Yes. But they basically said if we have cloud streaming, in this case, anyone can have the same experience on a $25 Android phone from a garage sale.
Right.
So if Apple was all in on cloud streaming and stuff, their own A17 Pro, iPhone 15 Pro would play the game the same as a Galaxy A series for $100.
Exactly.
So not helping Apple sell their expensive hardware and lock you into the iPhone. I see the DOJ's point there.
This makes more sense than the Apple Watch and Apple Wallet.
This is one of the stronger ones. I don't see a reason why cloud streaming shouldn't be allowed on the iPhone.
But at the same time, because cloud streaming is nice, like Xbox cloud streaming, GeForce Now, Steam Link, those are very helpful. But like Apple's defense, well, no, I don't. Honestly, no, I don't. I don't really see Apple's defense on this one.
I think they'd try and again argue some kind of privacy thing.
But cloud streaming, you don't have access to the host device or you don't have access to the viewing device from the host device. It is simply a video playback, maybe with touch controls.
So their workaround was Xbox cloud streaming could be on the App Store, but Xbox had to submit every single available game for review and every update to every game for review. So they had to treat it as like hundreds of different games on the App Store instead of just all under one cloud streaming umbrella.
But Microsoft already...
So like the Apple argument was, well, we care about quality control and app monitoring, so we want to have all the apps all controlled and whatever.
So basically, Apple just wants control.
Right. Again, I genuinely see the DOJ's case here.
I agree.
This one's a stronger one. I'd say 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd say about a 7.
This is genuinely a complaint I have. I mean, all of the whole lawsuit, it's just a bunch of complaints that especially tech-savvy people have had with the iPhone, all presented in a very, I don't know, interesting way. Some of them make sense, some of them don't, but they're all things that we've thought of at least once or complaints that we've had. This is one of them. Web apps aren't really promoted by Apple. It's not great for the consumer.
Speaking of not great for a portion of consumers, iMessage.
This one's really self-explanatory.
This one is very... It's in the name, iMessage.
It is by far the most widespread example of Apple being a monopoly, quote unquote, because iMessage is like the most dominant messaging platform in the US. It is only available on the iPhone.
Yep.
And Apple pretty much bullies you into using it. They make you a green bubble if you don't. Teenagers get kicked out of group chats in high school. It is not a positive experience in the US to not use iMessage. iMessage is only available on the iPhone. There's a whole social stigma with being a green bubble.
Right.
It's not good. And Tim Cook tried to be funny way back when. And
Tim Cook is just...
He said we did a whole episode on this. There was a person who asked Tim Cook, what do? I can't send my mom photos or videos. She has an Android phone. And Tim Cook said, buy your mom an iPhone.
Okay. It's tough, not to make it personal, but I can't send my mom certain videos or she can't send me certain videos. And so we leave
Buy your mom an iPhone.
Which was really funny at the time. That has only come back to bite him.
Yep.
Because they're saying Tim Cook, the CEO, said publicly the solution is buy an iPhone. There's no compromise. The end goal is just to get you on the iPhone.
Yep. Locked in.
iMessage isn't available on Android. There have been internally leaked emails about this. Again, they make iMessage available everywhere. Your hardware doesn't matter.
Exactly. And then you have no point in buying an iPhone.
So that's kind of it. Super apps, the watch, wallet, web apps, iMessage, those 5 categories are kind of, that's the whole lawsuit. And a lot of these, the three big ones, super apps, web apps, iMessage, they all center around locking you into hardware via not opening up the software side. And I think that's the biggest allegation.
Yeah.
Apple locks down their software to keep you on the hardware.
That's that's Apple's whole problem. Like
it's the ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's the walled garden. It's existed for years.
Yep. Because if you have iMessage on Android, what's to buy you an iPhone? The look, maybe the camera performance. Honestly, not even. You can buy a Samsung with the same performance, and you have iMessage now on it. So
if you ask me right now, why do I use an iPhone every day? There's genuinely iOS stuff. Like most apps work slightly better, and it fits with my workflow better.
Right.
Why does it fit with my workflow? Because of iMessage and Handoff and all of the
AirDrop,
ecosystem lock-ins. Yep. If all of that is open source, which it doesn't necessarily have to be because Apple made it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. But if it is open source, the incentive is all but gone.
Right. Because then you buy a Windows laptop, throw some iMessage on there, and call it a day. But me and you both have MacBooks. Me and you both have iPhones, Apple Watches, and AirPods.
Right.
We are in the ecosystem of Apple. And honestly, I love macOS. I prefer macOS to Windows on a portable standpoint just because of how good it is.
Yeah, the garden is very nice.
The garden is very nice.
The walls are very high.
The walls are very high.
I guess the thing I've been seeing all over Twitter, and I guess my kind of thought as we wrap this up, is Apple is good at making stuff, right? Like iMessage is great. The iPhone is great. The Apple Watch is great. They're all really, really good products. So is the DOJ kind of punishing them for being good? Do people buy all the stuff because it's good or because they're forced to because it's a monopoly?
I'd honestly say it's 50-50.
Apple's definitely not a monopoly if you look worldwide.
Yeah, right. You have Google and
WhatsApp exists in everywhere else.
You can get it
and
on
they
everything.
laugh at us for being obsessed over iMessage because they have a perfect universal standard. So will this be resolved? I don't know.
It 100% depends on.
Give it like what?
A month or two?
What's the over under on how many years you think it'll be? Over under 5.
I'm going to say under.
Under 5 years?
Yeah. I don't think it'll take longer than 5 years for Apple to figure themselves out, quote unquote, monopolistically.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
They did USB-C. They're doing the side loading in the EU.
Just get the EU on this.
Oh, no.
Just get the EU on this.
If the EU does the same lawsuit, they're toast.
They're cooked. Or they're just going to stop selling iPhones in Europe.
Honestly, I bet Tim Cook has thought about that. I bet Tim Cook has a button on his desk that just shuts down the iPhone sales in Europe, and they can just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Bring Lightning back to the iPhone.
They stop USB-C. They bring back 15-watt Lightning, take away
If it were up to Tim
charging.
Cook, it would be 30 pins across the whole lineup.
30-pin connectors. Apple Watch has a 30-pin connector. Your MacBook has
waterproofing is gone.
Yep.
It's just proprietary 30 pins and MagSafe.
I low-key missed the 30-pin connector. Just like
it was very sad.
The tactility of it was amazing.
So we'll see. We'll update this story over the next 5-6 years, however long this takes. But it is a very good read so far if you decide to read through the lawsuit. And like many other Apple stories recently, we shall see. All right, let's do a quick break real quick, and then we'll talk about more Apple AI stuff and a MrBeast game show. Control-AC is sponsored by The Complete Backyard. Summertime is almost here, and if you're looking for a new pool or outdoor kitchen or anything of the sorts, The Complete Backyard has you covered. For a consultation, you can go to thecompletebackyard.com. All right, so we got a dub announcement, which we'll talk about at the very end. One of the rumored features of iOS 18 and of the iPhone 16 is all AI stuff.
Of course it is.
On-device AI, generative AI, Siri AI.
We heard about Siri having a generative AI.
Yeah, Siri may be good.
Siri, that's an overstatement.
I said may. Like, I don't have confidence, but like statistically there's a chance.
There is a percentage of a chance.
Like, you have to say there's a chance even if it's 0.01.
Right. There is a percentage of a chance that Siri will be usable.
Is it likely?
No.
Absolutely not.
No. Siri hasn't been good since it came out.
But there's a chance.
But there is a chance that with generative AI it will be good.
And it just takes Google to make Siri good. So it looks like Apple could be using Gemini on the iPhone. So they're in, quote, active talks with Google about bringing Google's own generative AI to the iPhone to power all of their stuff. This makes sense to an extent.
I have a theory.
What's the theory?
I think Apple could make their own generative AI, but they don't want to because they're putting all of their time into Vision Pro.
I think it's that reason, but it's for privacy. Because to make a really good AI model, what do you need?
You need it to make sure it can't do anything illegal.
Right.
You need a database.
That's it, the database.
Yeah.
You need a ridiculous amount of data. And it kind of goes against Apple's core ideals to harvest a bunch of user data to make it. So they're just going to use Google's. Because it turns out
Google's been harvesting your data since you made an account.
Google has way too much data on you.
Google's been harvesting your data since you were in the womb.
Before you were born.
Yeah, like
Google,
it was harvesting what your parents thought you were going to wear when you were conceived.
Yes, your Google account was already made.
Right.
So Google generative AI will be on the iPhone, maybe. Gemini is good, I guess. It hasn't been as good as GPT-4 in my experience.
Yeah, I've used GPT-4 a little bit, and I've used Midjourney separately, and both of which are very, very good, and Gemini is not very, very good.
I've asked Gemini questions, and what's funny is that no matter what I ask it, it just says, "That's right," and then it gives me an explanation. So Gemini is fine, I guess.
It's you know
fine.
what? It's okay.
It's better than Siri. So worst case scenario, Apple spends billions of dollars to make something slightly better than current Siri, which I see as a win.
That's a win is a win.
Google Assistant was great, and then Google just gave up on it.
Yeah.
Now they're just all into Gemini stuff. So I don't know. Maybe Siri overtakes Assistant because it's all AI powered now. I cannot believe I just said that. But I guess there's a chance.
Remember when, okay, we obviously don't remember when it happened, but in like late 90s, early 2000s, when Apple partnered with Microsoft for Edge.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Right. And Apple already partners with Google, and there's a like $30 billion deal or some insane amount of money for Google to be the default search engine
On Safari.
Yep. So it's kind of just continuing that deal. More money is going to get thrown around, and Gemini is going to be on the iPhone. I can't imagine that they would like promote that. Like, I'm sure there's not going to be an ad that's like the iPhone 16 Pro with Google Gemini.
Right. Honestly,
that's
that might
not
be
happening.
Okay, I take it back. Not Microsoft Edge. Sorry, Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
I'm a couple decades too far ahead.
We're not that old. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know what Apple's going to say either, because even in DubDub, I don't know if they'd say, we've partnered with Google to bring Google's AI to the iPhone. I can't imagine Tim Cook being okay with that.
We've brought a common generative AI chatbot to iPhone in place of Siri. Something.
Apple has partnered with a global AI innovator to use their AI with Apple's leading neural engine and on-device processing to create the greatest AI LLM known to man. I don't know. We'll see about that. On the Windows Microsoft customization side of things, Microsoft is kind of pushing the idea of an AI PC, so a Intel Core Ultra powered computer that does a bunch of on-device AI stuff, and they're wanting a Copilot AI key on your keyboard to just automatically trigger the Copilot AI.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that'd be fine. It goes, what's to the right of Alt on a
Alt?
Windows keyboard?
Oh, Windows keyboard.
To the right of Alt.
Spacebar.
On the other side. Like to the left of left arrow. In between left arrow and Alt.
It might be FN.
So to replace function.
Yeah.
The Copilot key. But you'd have a AI key on your keyboard.
Huh.
That should be cool. Back to Epic Games as we wrap through these last couple stories. Epic Games Store is coming to iPhones in the EU this year. Epic is taking 12% of developers' money, which is deeply hilarious because the entire lawsuit we were just talking about was all about Epic Games protesting Apple taking developer money. So they themselves now are going to be taking developer money. Kind of funny.
But at least it's not 30%.
It's 12%. It's a lot less.
Lot less.
But still pretty funny it's happening.
That's a very fair amount. Little over
it's better than 30.
Little over 10%.
Yeah.
Like 12%, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a lot better than a third of the money.
Right.
Mr. Beast has partnered with Prime Video. They're doing a game show. This is sick. I can't wait for this. It will be called Beast Games. There will be 1,000 contestants, and the winner receives a $5 million prize, which is the biggest single payout prize in game show history. Pretty
Beast
cool.
Games.
Who else would do that? Mr. Beast's production team is like ridiculously good. So I guess I'm kind of interested to see what Prime Video does to that, what the feel of it is going to be. Because they're partnering with Prime Video for like more exposure and more money.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of hoping it doesn't mess with like the really good iconic feel of Mr. Beast Challenge videos. But this is cool to see. More YouTube creators partnering with like legacy streaming services.
What if Mr. Beast just moves to Prime Video? That's the only way you can watch Mr. Beast now.
I don't think he would.
No, he wouldn't.
He's gotten an offer to sell his channel for like $1 billion, and he turned that down.
I remember that.
But that should be fun to watch. Speaking of fun things to watch, our last story, WWDC, Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, will be June 10th in California at Apple Park. I don't think we'll be invited, but Tim Cook, if you're listening.
Tim Cook, if you are listening.
Well, no, he is listening. So Tim Cook.
Because you are listening, please send us an invite.
Send us an email.
Send us an email. We'll send you our address so you can send us the invite.
Or just send us a Vision Pro to watch it.
Or that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either or. But
we should be seeing AI stuff there. Lots of AI. Hopefully new Vision Pro stuff. Vision
would be
OS
cool.
2. We'll see what... Remember Vision Pro?
Uh-huh.
How that was like a thing? And then it just completely died and no one talks about that anymore.
It blew up on YouTube for like 3 weeks.
And then nothing.
Nothing.
Everyone returned it. And it's kind of dead now.
Yeah.
But...
You know, if you sent us one, Tim Cook, it won't be dead. We'll make content on it forever.
Right.
We'll change our name to Vision Pro, funded by Tim Cook.
Tim Cook, I will read the 88-page lawsuit in Vision Pro.
In Vision Pro, and defend you.
Mark it up with my hands. Markers everywhere.
Everywhere.
Windows flying. Will be fantastic.
Exactly. Or if you're not Tim Cook and you would just like to send us some questions, comments, or a Vision Pro,
Yeah, X works for that.
you can X at us. I am at ColeWWWeb,
I'm at Utterly Drew.
and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Bye, y'all.